So reliable water and sanitation remains an issue for millions of South Africans. The United Nations says that 4.2 million people in our country still do not have access to clean drinking water, and about 21 million still do not have proper sanitation. Those are very concerning numbers. These are, of course, some of the challenges that the newly appointed Deputy Minister for Water and Sanitation, Sello Seitlholo, must help address. The Deputy Minister joins us now live. Deputy Minister, good morning to you. And I think perhaps the right thing to start with is congratulations. You are officially now, well, you'll be sworn in, but no, ministers are sworn in. You are the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation. How did you feel when you heard the announcement?
Good morning, Naledi, and good morning to all the Newzroom Afrika viewers at home. I was quite overwhelmed. I had initially been hospitalized and discharged on Saturday, and when the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mr. John Steenhuisen, gave me that call, I was overwhelmed. I was anxious. And of course, having been part of this change within our political climate also means a great honor. But it is indeed something that I look forward to. It is a challenge that I look forward to. I've been working very hard in rural communities across the Northwest. And I'm hopeful that I will be able to make the relevant and necessary contribution with the assistance of the newly formed cabinet by the president.
What I found quite interesting is that you're only 34 years old, so you might very well be one of the youngest deputy ministers we've had in our country. I mean, that's surely quite important, right?
To be quite honest with you, when I became a member of parliament in 2019, and I started off as a member of the Portfolio Committee on Transport, and I really tried to work very hard to cement my position from a legislative point of view, but I also focused most of my time on doing constituency work, making sure that I'm able to represent the interests of people in Greater Taung in different villages there, such as Makgokgong, Kukuming, Molele, Matsokonyane, to try and get their voices heard in parliament through petitions, through media statements, and so forth and so on. And I was not really the issue of the age was not really at the back of my mind. I knew that I needed to work very hard. The late James Self was very clear, when we met, that, ours is a great opportunity, ours is an honor, ours is a privilege, and we should not mess it up. And I took that on my strides, and that's probably what has been keeping me going as a member of parliament since 2019. And nothing will change. This is just an opportunity for me to continue where I left off. I just happen to do it in a very important position, a position which I believe that, obviously once we're done with the swearing-in ceremonies, that I would have obviously hoped that it happens today so that we can officially get the ball rolling with the Minister and Deputy Minister David Mahlobo.
And of course, it is kicking off tomorrow. So this is what's quite interesting, though, is that you are that deputy minister that represents the Democratic Alliance, and you'll be working with Minister Phemi Majodina and David Mahlobo. Talk to me about that dynamic and the concern that you have. I mean, these are people that have quite a bit of experience in government. You are incredibly young. You're coming in from the opposition's point of view. Your understanding of your role, particularly when you interact with these two?
Well, I had a conversation with both the minister and the deputy minister, and obviously ours is to, once the official swearing-in ceremonies have been done, is to obviously sit down. The minister did indicate that we will have a sit-down, all three of us, so that we can pave a way forward for the department. Remember, we've not had access yet to the legacy report of the department. We've only had really brief conversations. I've had brief conversations with the DG and other officials of the department as we were obviously preparing for this process of the swearing-in ceremony, which was scheduled today. So I think, that my role within the department will obviously be more clearer once we have that so-called Mkombandlela from the minister. And as you indicated, I've known Mam Phemi since 2019. I've known her inside the House of Parliament and outside of the House of Parliament. And I think everybody that is now ministers or deputy ministers has really taken call from the president in order to make this particular JNU work. And I don't think that my age will be of any factor to Phemi Majodina and Deputy Minister Mahlobo. I do also think that I come from a very strong institution, the Northwest University, in as far as academia is concerned. I have worked within the structures of the DA, which also demand quite a lot. We do have a background of good governance where we are in government in the Western Cape and other parts of the country. So in as far as that is concerned, mine is just to look forward to kind of delving deep into what the challenges of the department are, kind of hearing from the minister as to what it is, what role he would like for me to play. Of course, when you are from an academic background, you have an idea of what it is that you want to do. You already have issues that you want to put on the table of the minister or the department in order to be resolved, which formed part of the issue driving that I had done as a constituency head of Greater Taung in the Northwest. So I just look forward to that particular meeting with the minister and the deputy minister to hear, where they are in terms of their headspace, or the minister in particular in terms of their headspace, before we can then meet with the officials for an official briefing of the department.
I mean, the reason why I ask this is because there is a sense that there's a lack of clarity really on the role of deputy ministers, right? Especially where we're talking about what some are calling a very bloated cabinet, right? And just what those roles and responsibilities are, just how much they rely on the direction that you take from the minister, and then the impact that you have if you need to wait for direction from the minister. You are one of 43 deputy ministers. Do you believe that that is too much?
The president obviously appoints his cabinet. We had no role in that as the Democratic Alliance, and definitely in turn as far as our negotiating team that went into, these negotiations is concerned. And I suppose with something that is obviously an incredible concern to a number of South Africans, we come in and it's up to us to change the status quo. I think one of the biggest things that we need to start doing now is getting South Africans generally very interested in politics, but we can only really do that in earnest if we can actually have that outcome-based approach in as far as these positions are concerned. And like I said, I want to reiterate this point. Once we've had that meeting with the minister, once I've seen the picture of the department from its legacy report point of view, once I understand and can comprehend the challenges that are being faced by the department, I would obviously need to coin my own unique way of how do I want to then contribute largely towards making sure that the department does actually be able to offer the difference in as far as its government programs are concerned. I can share obviously the sentiments of South African voters out there with respect to the issue of the bloated cabinet. But as Helen Ziller often rightly say, if you want to kind of implement certain policy positions, you give a DA 50+1. And I think that we would be having a very different conversation right now. But as it stands, this is what it is. But I can promise you now that I'm not going to be a lame duck. John Steenhuisen did say, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I don't expect that I will be one of those deputy ministers who will be looked at as useless. I will be in government programs. I will be on the ground, and I will be making sure that I influence those decisions.
But do you believe that we're spending a lot on 43 deputy ministers and that it is a bloated cabinet?
Well, I can have my own opinion, but as I said, it's the president's prerogative in terms of who he appoints into the cabinet.
Okay.
And I want to emphasize this point that we've held the idea for the longest time that, we do have a bloated cabinet, we do have a bloated public service. But we are not in a position as the Democratic Alliance where we have a 50+1 where we can actually effect that particular policy position. So we are working well within the space that has been given to us by the electorate. And obviously the president has made the decision to obviously extend the cabinet the way that he has. As Helen did say that, we were not aware of some of these particular positions. And I think that's something that we would need to look at and have a discussion about as we move forward.
Yeah, I raised that because I think prior to the 7th administration, the Democratic Alliance had spoken out quite emphatically about or against a bloated cabinet, right? And now that you are in that government, I wonder if there's a change of tune. But let's move on to the next point, right? One of the things that we heard from the Democratic Alliance in the negotiations before the announcement of the cabinet ministers was that the DA would be looking to review certainly the tenders that were taking place within the departments that they'd be running, whether as deputy minister or as minister, from the promulgation of the election. Is that something that still stands? And how do you intend to do that at the Department of Water and Sanitation, to review tenders?
Yeah. I think we will go further into that particular process in as far as that review of those tenders is concerned once we meet. I think we are meeting sometime next week for a getaway of some sort, so that we actually kind of get clarity on a program of action or a framework of some sort on how that needs to happen. But I don't think that it's an unfair request. I mean, we cannot be naive to the fact that we do come from government departments that have been marred with corruption, particularly as it relates to corruption, particularly as it relates to the construction mafia, particularly as it relates to quite a number of public projects that have stalled. So I think once we, once we familiarized ourselves with what the program, or the projects rather, or programs that are part of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, where they are, have they been stalled, what are the challenges, and so forth and so on. And I think it's a fair request to make, so that we can have a full audit of those particular projects, so that we know that nobody has unduly benefited from those, so that we avoid the situation that obviously happened with many water projects that have led to people being without water for many weeks and months.
Yeah, look, we can talk about the politics forever, but I think the viewer that's watching in the various parts of the country wants to see the solutions. Nearly 1 out of 10 schools rely on unsafe or pit toilets. That's going to be a big issue for you. Providing people with the dignity that comes with sanitation, for instance. Certainly. I mean, where are your priorities, and how do you see the working relationship to be with other leaning departments? Concerns that you have about the leadership of some of those departments?
Yeah, I think, to be able to, I'll make an example. When I was in Public Works, and I was the Shadow Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, and you remember the former Minister, Sihle had announced a national forum of some sort to deal with the issue of the construction mafia that involved bringing in the security cluster to sit around the table to come up with ideas on how they're going to be able to, deal with this particular menace to our economy. And I think it's the same approach that I will take, given the responsibility that I will be given by the minister to say, right, how do we work with institutions of higher learning? Because I'm sure universities such as UKZN, University of Northwest, and others are busy with innovative ideas around research on how to go about making sure that we are able to provide dignity to our school learners in as far as sanitation is concerned, or any other water-related projects, particularly in rural communities, specifically in terms of ending pit toilets in provinces such as the Northwest and the Eastern Cape. And I think mine is to really, really venture into that particular aspect of things from a higher institution of learning to say, right, from a science and innovation point of view, what are universities, what are institutions of learning doing in as far as their contribution to water and sanitation is concerned, particularly in rural communities and townships where people continue, as you say, live an undignified life. I remember in one of the villages in Taung, in Hobopamang, where children in primary school needed to relieve themselves, in bushes, because they did not have proper toilets at the time. And I think these are some of the ideas that I think I would be able to bring to the table, garner all stakeholders that would be able to make the necessary contribution, because the leader of the DA did call on all South Africans, to roll up their sleeves, to come up with all their ideas, and know that for every minister and deputy minister of the Democratic Alliance that is in this cabinet, there will be an open door policy where we will be willing to listen to every stakeholder and every South African that offers a solution to the myriad of challenges that we are facing. All
right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We'll be watching your tenure very closely, and we really do appreciate your time. Sello Seitlholo there is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation. He'll be working with Phemi Majodina.